Life sometimes presents surprises that one cannot even imagine. Reflecting on my 20 years of marriage with Alexander, it's hard to believe it all started with a simple meeting in a cafe. I was young, filled with hopes and dreams for the future. We met at a student party, and from that moment, the world around us seemed to change. It felt like nothing could tear us apart. At first, everything was simply wonderful. We studied together, laughed, did silly things, and dreamed about how we would live together. I remember sitting on the bench in the park, discussing where we wanted to go on our honeymoon, and then, years later, how daily life challenges began to overshadow our relationship. As time went by, children came into our lives, and the responsibilities of parenting began to fill most of our time. At first, it was happiness. Seeing the joy in their eyes as they took their first steps or said their first words. But with the arrival of children came new challenges. Working late into the night left me exhausted, while Alexander seemed to be absent more and more from our home. Initially, it was business trips. Later, it was long hours at work. I was trying to be supportive, but as time passed, I felt he was drifting away from me. I couldn't understand how this happened. We were doing everything together, but soon our conversations were reduced to discussions about household chores. I felt like I was losing him. One day when he came home, I noticed that his eyes no longer sparkled, and his voice was filled with a weariness that never seemed to vanish, even in moments of joy. I tried to talk to him, but every time he would joke it off or retreat into himself. One night, after the children had fallen asleep, I decided I could no longer remain silent. "What is happening between us, Alexander?" I asked, filled with fear and anxiety. He looked at me with despair and confessed he didn't know. At that moment, I realized something had to change. Slowly, with each passing day, the situation worsened. I noticed him leaving for business meetings more frequently. I couldn't believe that our marriage, which seemed so strong, could be at risk. I tried to find an explanation, but all my thoughts only deepened my pain. Then one day, returning home, I found his phone on the table. A message had come from an unknown name, and it struck my heart like a knife. It contained something intimate, something that should not exist in our marriage. The realization that he was cheating on me was shocking. 1,000 questions raced through my mind. Why? How could he? What should I do next? From that moment, my internal struggle began. I didn't know how to react. On one hand, there was anger and a desire to demand explanations. On the other, there was the fear of being left alone, the fear of losing everything we had built over the years. That night, there was no sleep, no peace. I wandered through the house, recalling all those happy moments that now felt so distant. The children were asleep, and only the silence reminded me that something had broken. In the morning, I decided I needed to talk to him. This would be a difficult conversation, but it was necessary. I understood that this could be the beginning of the end, but at the same time, it could be the only way to regain him, or conversely, to free myself from this pain. When he came home, I gathered all my courage. "We need to talk," I said, and he seemed to already know what it was about. In his eyes, I saw fear and guilt. But was that enough to fix everything? That evening, we talked for a long time. Each time I asked questions, he answered honestly. It wasn't easy. Tears streamed down my cheeks, and sometimes I couldn't hold back my sobs. He tried to comfort me, but words couldn't erase the pain I felt. We both understood that we needed time to sort through our feelings and figure out how to move forward. The next morning, when I woke up, my mind was filled with thoughts of what to do. Time passed, but my feelings remained mixed. On one hand, the love I felt for Alexander was strong and sincere. On the other, the betrayal he inflicted on me left a deep scar. I began to realize that I needed not just forgiveness, but also a desire to work on myself and our relationship. I decided we needed to communicate more and spend time together to rebuild what had been lost. We started with simple things: walks in the park, shared dinners, and discussions about what troubled us. It was difficult, but gradually moments of joy began to reemerge. We started discussing not only our problems, but also our dreams for the future and how we envisioned our family in a few years. However, as we worked on our relationship, memories of betrayal still lingered. I realized that this wasn't just about forgiveness. It was about the need to change myself and my expectations. Every time I felt dissatisfaction or resentment, I reminded myself that relationships are a two-way process, and restoring them requires effort from both sides. Months passed, and while we were not the same as before, we developed a new level of understanding for each other. Alexander began to share his feelings more, and I became more open to his emotions. We attended relationship workshops, read books on psychology, and learned to better understand one another. This process was not easy, but it helped us grow closer. But at some point, I realized I could not continue living in the shadow of his betrayal. I started visiting a psychologist to sort through my feelings. This helped me understand that it was important not only to forgive, but also to reclaim myself. I realized that I needed to be confident in my feelings and know what I wanted for my happiness. Time passed, and with each day, I grew stronger. I learned to set boundaries and to openly express my desires. Laughter returned to our home, but I also understood that relationships require constant work. So, a year after we faced betrayal, we decided to give ourselves a second chance. We began planning our future together, and although the old wounds had not fully healed, we learned to live with them. Each day, we showed each other that we were willing to work on ourselves and our relationship. I came to understand that love is not only about romance, but also about patience, understanding, and the willingness to meet each other halfway, even when it is difficult. This story of love and betrayal became an opportunity for us to understand ourselves and each other better. Now, every moment is valuable, and despite the past, we continue to build our future together. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please give it a like, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts.